Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching. We are on location at InfoCision in Akron, Ohio this week. On our program is Bryan Hartong, and he is the VP of New Business Development. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
So you're responsible for the direct mail side, multi-channel area of the business. So
Correct.
could you give me a little bit of an idea of what that means?
Okay. Well, as you know, InfoCision is been in the direct marketing business for over 28 years. Through that, a lot of the core competencies that we developed are reaching donors, reaching the right audiences, developing the right message for those donors, and then delivering that message. And it was a natural progression for InfoCision to move into the direct mail area. And that's what I primarily focus on is a direct mail side. Within the direct mail, what we primarily focus on is using our business intelligence and our data to determine the correct audience and tailor that message within that direct mail to that audience, and then do all the back-end analytics on that.
Now, you're also able to customize direct mail pieces, correct?
Correct. So basically how it works is we will we'll work with any of our clients to develop, whether it be doing a donor profile off of their donor base and determining what their base looks like and what message we should tailor to that audience, or if it's that acquisition side of it, we'll actually develop a profile and go into our consumer database of over 220 million consumers, and we have over 105 different indicators, whether it be from a demographic, psychographic, or transactional data points, and select the ideal audience for the organization that we're targeting. And then what we'll do within that is we'll actually develop the message and the images that will most ideally target those audiences. And then what we can actually do is we actually map that intelligence with the print, so we can actually change the message by person based on those indicators. We can change the images by person, so we can put, if we know they have children in the household, we can put pictures of children. If we know they're in a certain age bracket where they might be an older couple, we can put pictures of older couple on there. If we know that based on their demographics and psychographics that there's a different appeal and a different message, it should resonate with them more so than another audience, we can actually replace the text that's in the direct mail piece that will resonate more with those people. And we can do that on the fly. So we can actually have 500,000 pieces that are going out, and every single piece literally could have a different message, look and feel different, that's being sent to them. And then what we do in the back end of that is then we test into that, and we see, which segments, what variable elements perform the best against others, and then we keep honing that, campaign after campaign, month after month. We keep honing that, so we narrow in on the audience and the appeal that works with the different audiences.
Do you ever have a situation where the macroeconomic environment is a factor that you always wonder, or you might wonder, you or your customers wonder, if it may be the economy or something happening that's changed the numbers on a mailing or something like that, or just continuous testing get rid of that challenge?
Well, it is. It's always a concern. And obviously that has to do with the appeal, but some of the ways around that is we actually will take the appeal and take some of those environmental factors that are happening, some of those economic factors that are happening, and we actually match it up in a database based on their income and household net worth. So we have actually done testing where we take the appeal and we might vary that based on the information we have on them as far as what their income and net worth is, and we vary the ask amounts within our appeals based on that.
Makes good sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of using direct mail and the telephone, do you find that you are able to succeed at a greater level for customers because you're now able to match the demographics and psychographics of targeted mailings with targeted follow-up telephone calls?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because that's really where InfoCision is heading and where we want to become as a company is really targeting understanding who responds to what. Whoever in this business can figure out where and how to spend your resources, time, and money towards donors, which channels work the best, is going to be the winner in this market.
Right.
And I feel InfoCision, because of our history and because of our core expertise, not only in the telemarketing side of it, now the direct mail side of it, but all the investment and resources and time that we have in our, we call it our business intelligence group, and our database management. And what we're moving towards is being able to identify how does somebody respond. Everybody responds differently. Some people give through the phones, some people give through the mail, some people give through the internet. And it's also been proven that you do need multiple channels. So you do need to always be reaching people in multiple channels, but typically people will only give in one of those channels.
Right.
But that doesn't mean if they never give through the phone, that you stop calling them.
Sure.
Because it's been proven that if you mail them and you call them, and they complement each other, and they'll actually give more through the mail if they're also getting a phone call, and vice versa.
Sure.
People give through the mail. So that's really where we're at. And then what we do in our database is we want to identify within those customer files, how do they give? And then have our clients spend the money, time, and resources in the channels that are going to produce the highest ROI. So if they're a mail responder, we're going to obviously spend the most time and resources into mailing into that donor base. And then we may call them maybe 4 times a year instead of 8 to 10 times a year.
Sure.
Or vice versa.
Sure.
Same thing with media. We do email campaigns, so we can tell when somebody clicks through. We can tell when somebody gives through the internet, and we can tell what channel drove them to that. So
Right.
did mail drive them to that? Did the phone drive them to that? And do they only give through the web? And then you adjust again. Where do you spend your time and resources? Once you've identified what channel do they give through.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm just thinking
Right.
about this last campaign season where most of my giving was done via the web, yet there were phone call messages that were left for me that prompted me to open up a web browser
Exactly.
the next day,
Exactly.
and there was mail that I received that prompted me to give the next day, and of course email, but the challenge with email is that the saturation level, once you start getting on the lists, consumers are going to get bombarded with potentially 6 or 7 or 8 competitive requests for money, as
Right.
opposed to the calls where there seems to be less people calling.
Right. Or things that we do like instant emails. So if you do get that phone call, you've agreed to give, and then the next key is to actually receive the donation.
Sure.
Well, there are things ways you can reinforce that. Obviously, we do that through the
reminders.
mail, but also we can do instant emails. We'll actually send you a link and send you an email thanking you, and then
Sure.
send a link. So it's just one more, and then we can tell, did you click through that? So we know if you do respond. So that therefore we know in the future this person does respond to emails that they receive from you. If they never click through it, then you know that they're more than likely not an email provider. And we can do the same thing through the mail, where we can put personalized URLs. We can do things that will allow us to track, did we drive them to the web
Right.
through the mail?
Right, that's great.
So, yeah.
Assuming, and the challenge is that will they use that personalized URL? But if you can get them
Correct.
to use it, that's great.
Correct.
Right, if a percentage of them do, that's
Correct.
fantastic.
And then the key is, once you identify who that percentage is, then you know that it's going to be effective.
Right.
But don't use it if it's only 5%.
Right.
Use it to spend the money on that 5%, but don't use it on the other 95% of that file.
Makes good sense. Now, we were talking off camera about one of your customers. It's one of the world's largest charities that we unfortunately can't say their name.
Right.
But they worked with you in an interesting way, and I was hoping that you could share that story with us.
Yeah. We've worked with this client for, probably 10 years, trying to gain more business. And obviously we were always talking about the traditional channels, whether it be phones and taking their inbound calls and scheduling, or whether it be outbound calls and trying to improve the donor base. We've talked about mail, but we really approach them with what I had just reviewed, which is a multi-channel, where we're calling into them, we're mailing, and then we're following that up with the follow-up phone calls, and we are doing instant emails. And really what we put together is a whole strategy that, a whole strategy around taking them through the touch point. So as soon as a donor touches the organization, we put together a whole strategy of what happens as soon as they touch. So we put together a web, when do they get their emails, varying the message on how they came to us. So whether they gave, whether they gave through the web, what appeal worked, what have you. We tailor the multimedia or the web message to them. We will do the email campaigns every month, and we'll actually do the same house file mailing every month, but we'll vary the appeal that we're using based on A, how did they come to us, and B, some of those psychographic information. So they might have given us $20, but if we know the household income is a certain amount, we might vary that ask.
Right.
And we might have things on file that tell us that they're a continuity shopper, so we know that they like to give to organizations on a continual basis. So obviously we'll go and we'll pitch a partner program where we'll get them into a continuity partner program where they're given every month. And then the phones, we have the phone cadence that's timed up with the mail cadence. And then after we have a few months under our belt, then we can start identifying exactly who gave how.
Right.
And then start planning our cadences and our multimedias accordingly.
So what we're really, what I'm learning from this conversation, it reinforces the fact that there's a level of complexity here with the analytics and the multi-channel marketing that is getting to the point where it's better to outsource these sorts of activities to a third party, where a company can focus on its core competency and allow a partner that is constantly evolving, like InfoCision or others in the field that are at this level, to be able to manage what has become a very complex marketing task of just calling, psychographics, demographics, cadence of mailings and phone calls and ask amounts and analytics. It seems like most companies are not able to do this, or really, if they are able to do this, then the question is, what are they not focusing on in their core business if this is what they're focusing on? Because the evolution of this space has been phenomenal.
Right, right. I think you hit on two things there. One is what we're evolving to, and it's almost a necessity. If you're really going to be successful and maintain the level of success that we've had at InfoCision on being the best at maintaining donor files and house files and acquiring new donors, you have to be savvy in all the media channels, and you have to learn how to tie them all together. And really, our technology in our society has forced that, because it used to be you either gave through the phone, you gave through the mail.
Right.
Well, now it's not like that anymore.
No.
We all interact with all of them differently. We look at the phone differently than we did 10 years ago. We look at mail differently than we did 10 years ago. And as far as using the BI, the business intelligence, and the data analytics, again, that's become a necessity.
Now, how about the social media aspects? Are you involved in that at all?
We're getting involved in that. Yes. Yes. I mean, that's going to be the next.
That's the future.
That's going to be the next wave. Once we figured out the telephone, the mail, and the web and the email part of this, obviously we know that the multimedia, the Facebooks and the LinkedIn and the Twitters and all that is going to be soon to follow, because again, the generation that's coming up, they're going to be very in tune with getting messages through those mediums and also giving through those.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for being on the program. This was great.
Thank you. Thank you.